Cost of living in Singapore 2023. Singapore is considered to be one of the best places to live in, and for a good reason. They're just so better at doing things than most countries, from public transportation to business ecosystems to innovations in several industries. But it comes at a price, literally. Singapore does not hide the fact that the rent prices and the price of education are high. But it doesn't mean you have to keep up with the country's hefty price tags to be able to live comfortably and within your means. Just like most countries, Singapore lifestyle varies from one region to another. Some regions will contain the shopping districts, while others are home to the financial district. These factors and more can make or break your budget when living in Singapore. The central region of Singapore is known to have the highest rent prices, mostly because it's home to the city's shopping malls and financial hubs. The cheapest rentals in Singapore are located in the north and east regions of the country. Expats favor these regions, so they don't have to worry about purchasing a car to drive their kids to school. Speaking of driving, buying a car in Singapore is anything but practical. On top of paying for market value, there are added local fees that pile on top of one another. This is to dissuade people from using private cars and to use public transport actively. Unless you're shopping in malls, groceries are relatively cheaper because you access locally sourced products and brands. Hawker centers are more favored for dining out than luxury restaurants and commercial fast food restaurants. There are 5 regions in Singapore that you have to know about because these can strategically affect your daily budget. The 5 regions are as follows: Central, North, East, Northeast, and West. There are 28 districts divided between these 5 regions through their old zip code, postcode system. The split between these districts makes it easy for property developers and real estate agents to find properties and sell them. There's no significant difference in the costs of living between these districts, but the rental prices can drive your monthly expenses up. It's only fair that the first part of this article talks about how much rent costs in Singapore. Central region, the most expensive. Central region covers districts 1 to 15, including City Hall, Marina area, CBD, and number 21, Central West District. The rent prices in this area are high because you're living close to major shopping malls and international schools. Districts 1 to 10 are the most expensive places to live in, and the neighborhoods found in the Central Business District. Some of the most popular areas include Holland Village, Orchard Road, Marina Bay, Tanjong Pagar. Commercial businesses are aplenty here, so residents tend to walk to and from work. A short taxi ride will also suffice in case the weather's too hot. Expected monthly rent for private properties in Orchard Road. Studio apartment, 3,900 Singapore dollars, 2,900 US dollars. 3-bedroom apartment, $8,000, 5,800 US dollars. North region, the least expensive. The North region of Singapore is the least populated region, and mostly underdeveloped. It's close to the causeway that links Singapore and Malaysia. The MTR lines in the North region strategically link it to the center. The North region's famous district is Woodlands District, which is home to the largest international school in the country. This makes it very appealing to expats who want to move to Singapore. Expected monthly rent for private properties in Woodlands District. Studio apartment, 1,800 Singapore dollars, 1,310 US dollars. 3-bedroom apartment, 3,700 Singapore dollars, 2,695 US dollars. Northeast. The Northeast region covers districts 19 and 28 and 20 on Mo Kio. Young couples somewhat favor this region because the government invested in developing residential areas to draw in families. The Northeast region also has extensive connections to large shopping malls and the Central region. Expected monthly rent for private properties in Mo Kio. Studio apartment, 2,700 Singapore dollars, 1,965 US dollars. 3-bedroom apartment, 7,100 Singapore dollars, 5,170 US dollars. East. The Eastern District is close to Changi Airport and is home to District 16, Upper East Coast, 17, the Far East, and 18, Tampines. The Eastern District is a fast-growing business hub and is home to international restaurants from different countries and access to outdoor activities and parks. Expected monthly rent for private properties in Tampines. Studio apartment, 1,900 Singapore dollars, 1,370 US dollars. 3-bedroom apartment, 2,450 Singapore dollars, 1,760 US dollars. West. The west region of Singapore is probably the most populated area simply because it's an industrial region. Many offices are based here, so a lot of residential areas have popped up to reduce work commute. Districts found here are number 22, 23, and 24. Expected monthly rent for private properties in Buona Vista. Studio apartment, 2,700 Singapore dollars, 1,950 US dollars. 3-bedroom apartment, 4,380 Singapore dollars, 3,190 US dollars. Utility costs. Singapore's resources are limited, which makes your monthly utility bills relatively higher than the average. Westerners migrating to Singapore also experience some form of shock when they find out their bills are a lot higher throughout the summer than any other season. This can be attributed to the fact that air conditioning is a must to survive the Singaporean summer. Electricity, water, and gas. Your monthly bills for electricity, water, and gas range from 200 Singapore dollars to 600 Singapore dollars, depending on the air conditioning usage. But this depends on the property. If your property has a gas supply, your monthly bills might be significantly lower. Cable, broadband internet, and mobile phone subscriptions. Mobile phone subscriptions in Singapore aren't exactly cheap, but they're not expensive either. You get the most bang for your buck as long as you find the best postpaid or prepaid plan for you. For postpaid subscriptions, you're looking at about 35 Singapore dollars to 100 Singapore dollars per month. This monthly subscription will also vary, depending on if your plan is SIM-only or covers the phone as well. Internet connections for residential areas are relatively cheaper in Singapore, and you're getting a lot of speed and data for what you're paying. For an average of 50 Singapore dollars a month, you're already getting at least 1 Gbps with unlimited data, no download limit. Cable subscriptions in Singapore aren't uncommon, and they're also relatively cheap. You can get started with a monthly subscription of $28 to get the primary cable channels, but if you want the international media and the HD channels, you're going to pay between $50 and $80 monthly. Grocery prices in Singapore. Fresh food and local goods are affordable in Singapore, especially when purchasing them at small grocery stores or local supermarkets. Local goods are significantly cheaper than imported Western goods, which is a given. Average grocery prices in Singapore. Eggs, 1 dozen, 2 Singapore dollars and 50 cents. Milk, 1 carton, 2 Singapore dollars and 50 cents. Chicken, 1 kilogram, 10 Singapore dollars and 15 cents. Apples, 500 g or 1 pound, for Singapore dollars and 64 cents. 1 bottle of beer, for Singapore dollars and 99 cents. 1 bottle of wine, 40 Singapore dollars and 64 cents. You can check out a more comprehensive updated list on Numbeo. Daily expenses in Singapore. Daily expenses can vary depending on your lifestyle. These are the optional costs that could affect your budget here in Singapore. Dining out is cheap in Singapore. Food stalls from hawker centers or food halls are less expensive than dining out in fancy restaurants or commercial fast food restaurants. Singapore is known to have Michelin star food stalls. The price difference between these food stalls and restaurants is quite significant. A cheap meal for 2 in a food stall might cost you 25 Singapore dollars, whereas a meal at a mid-range restaurant can cost you 60 Singapore dollars to $80. Monthly gym subscriptions can be quite expensive. Mid-range memberships average at about 100 Singapore dollars. Recreation expenses such as movie tickets, alcohol, and karaoke rooms aren't cheap too. Movie tickets can average 9 Singapore dollars on weekdays and 13 Singapore dollars on weekends. IMAX and 3D can cost more. Alcohol consumption in bars can cost you $10 to $15 per bottle. Karaoke rooms, minus the alcohol and food, can cost you $25 to $35 per person. Editor's note: accessibility and prices may change due to pandemic restrictions. Cost of education. Singapore does not shy away from the costs of its education. Their transparency doesn't hinder expats from enrolling their children in international schools. Local government schools. Primary school in Singapore lasts for 6 years, and 4 years for secondary school leading to the GCE O-level exams, or 5 years for GCE N-level exams. Singaporean and primary residents mostly attend these schools, but children of expats may be admitted to these schools. The monthly cost of local schools in Singapore are as follows. Primary education. Free for Singaporean citizens. Singapore PR is 205 Singapore dollars. Secondary education. Singapore citizens are 5 Singapore dollars. Singapore PR is 380 Singapore dollars. International schools. Children of expats can attend various international schools in Singapore. These have an annual range of 12,000 Singapore dollars to 30,000 Singapore dollars, depending on the school. Monthly costs for international schools in Singapore are as follows. Primary education. International students from ASEAN countries is 465 Singapore dollars. International students from non-ASEAN countries is 465 Singapore dollars. Secondary education. International students from ASEAN countries is 780 Singapore dollars. International students from non-ASEAN countries is 1,400 Singapore dollars. Editor's note, please consider other costs as well, such as bus fees, autonomous school fees, and miscellaneous fees. Healthcare costs. Singapore is known to have the best healthcare system in Asia. The World Health Organization also ranked the country's healthcare system as 6th best in the world. Their healthcare system boasts state-of-the-art medical technology combined with cost-effective medical solutions with high success rates. Their healthcare system follows strict government-mandated guidelines for excellence, transparency, cleanliness, and safety. But the downside is that there's no government mandate for employers to provide insurance to Singapore employees. As a result, health insurance benefits are not made available by employers in Singapore. So if your compensation does not include medical insurance, then this might be a small issue for you. But don't fret, as even without insurance, the healthcare costs aren't exactly unreasonable. General practitioner consultation fees averages at 40 Singapore dollars. Blood work and X-ray will cost you 50 Singapore dollars and up to 80 Singapore dollars. Specialists' consultation fees will range between 75 Singapore dollars and 125 Singapore dollars per consultation. Ward fees in hospitals can go as cheap as 30 Singapore dollars for the non-air-conditioned ones. Private lounges can cost you 3,000 Singapore dollars at least. Health insurance in Singapore is reasonable, as well. Policies that cover surgery and hospitalization can cost you 2,000 Singapore dollar minimum yearly. Travel and transportation cost. Singapore is known for its very effective public transportation system, so much so that the government makes you jump through hoops for owning your car. The average one-way ticket for buses and MRT is about 2 Singapore dollars per person. Back and forth, you're looking at 4 Singapore dollars per day. At 20 workdays, you're spending an average of 80 Singapore dollars to commute to work. Taxi service. Taxi services in Singapore are also very efficient. Taxi drivers in Singapore are also eager to drive through the shortest distances. The basic fee right now is 3 Singapore dollars and 90 cents with a kilometer price of 1 Singapore dollar as of this writing. Other costs are also added on top of the taxi fares. These fees range from location-based surcharges, specifically in the CBD area, to airport fees. Owning a car in Singapore. Unlike most countries, Singapore does not make it easy for expats to own a car. The costs are incredibly high because there are additional costs on top of the car's market value. Taxes and fees make it more expensive, not to mention other requirements such as certificate of entitlement that you need to accomplish. How much are you exactly spending? Frugal lifestyle. Rental, 1,800 Singapore dollars, studio apartment in North Region. Food, 250 Singapore dollars, groceries plus hawkers. Transportation, 120 Singapore dollars, public transportation. Mobile data, 20 Singapore dollars, SIM only. Exercise and recreation, 100 Singapore dollars, Netflix, gym fees, occasional drinks. Total, 1,970 Singapore dollars. Mid-range lifestyle. Rental, 2,700 Singapore dollars, studio apartment in Northeast Region. Food, 500 Singapore dollars, groceries plus hawkers plus restaurants. Transportation, 400 Singapore dollars, public transportation plus taxi. Mobile data, 30 Singapore dollars, SIM only plus higher data allowance. Exercise and recreation, 300 Singapore dollars, Netflix, gym fees, more drinks. Total, 3,930 Singapore dollars. High-end lifestyle. Rental, 8,000 Singapore dollars, 3-bedroom house in Orchard Road. Food, 2,000 Singapore dollars, fancy restaurants. Transportation, 1,000 Singapore dollars, limousine or private cars plus taxi. Mobile data, 60 Singapore dollars, phone plus SIM plus higher data allowance. Exercise and recreation, 1,500 Singapore dollars, Netflix, high-end fitness centers, traveling, shopping. Total, 12,560 Singapore dollars.